Okay, continuing on from the previous video, we're going to take a look at how to set up the eyelashes to create an eyelash blend shape to follow the eyelid blend shape here in ZBrush. Now, I'm just going to go to my polymesh option here in the Tools palette, and I'm going to go ahead and import in those eyelashes that I just created in the previous video. And yes, I can get rid of unused vertices if they don't need to be there. And there we go, that's what we have. Now I need to append this as part of my subtool to my head. So I'll grab my head and we'll go to append, and I'll grab the eyelashes upper left. So it's good to have a good naming convention, and they should pop in there if these were created at the same location as your model in Maya. Now, what I'm just going to do real quick, because these pop in way at the bottom, makes them harder to select, I'm just going to select them in the subtool menu and use this button here, continue pressing it until I move them just above the eyes. Just move that one too high, put it down. There we go. Because it's actually the eyelashes subtool that I'm going to want to modify here. So we know that the eyelashes currently fit the right location here in ZBrush because we modeled them at the default location for this blend shape, which was the, this is just the regular average eyes. But if I go in now, and if I go in and let's just really quickly just lower our subdivision levels, which means I actually need to go back to the head real quick. Pull that down to 3. There we go. And just so we're not dealing with so much geometry here, I'm going to, on the head, I'm just going to go and find my layer that has the eyelid up blend shape that I created. If I just find that here, upper eyelid up, and I'm just going to turn that up to maximum. And you'll see that that rotates everything up there, okay, which is fine. That's what I want. Now, what I'm going to do is pull that over here. I am just going to make life a little bit easier for myself by holding down Control and Shift and just dragging a selection around this area here. And I'm going to actually turn off my symmetry. So just do that again so I can only get one side. And I'm going to do it again here just so that I don't keep the back of the head. It looks a bit strange having my teeth in there, so I think I'm just going to really quickly turn those off so that doesn't look so scary. But I do need to leave the eyes on because I need to be able to see what they're doing. Now, in fact, actually, I can probably get away with turning the eyes off. So let me just turn off the cornea and the lacrimal and the rest of the eyeball. Oh, well, that was that whole thing. There we go. Cool. Now, what I need to do effectively is rotate these eyelashes. And we got to figure out where we're going to rotate that from. So I'm going to go back to the eyelashes now. Just click on that subtool. And we presume that the eyelid has rotated around the eyeball itself, which is a fair presumption. And we just need to find where is the center of the eyeball to create a similar rotation. Now, actually, I probably should turn on the eyeball again, which was the lacrimal. I didn't need to turn that off. There we go. And that is going to be somewhere in this general area here. So let's just turn off that. Now, we're just going to try to figure this out in a very scientific way, which is basically making my my tool about the same size as the eyeball, more or less. 46, 50, somewhere in there. I'm just going to type this in. 46. This is totally scale dependent of my scene. So all I'm doing here is just trying to make my tool the same size as this eyeball. Because if I do it that way, I know more or less where the center point is. Now, having done that, I'm just going to keep my my mouse in the same spot here, and I'm going to press the R key to go into rotate mode. And so if I haven't moved my mouse, then I know that I'm more or less still in the center here. So I'm going to click. I'm just going to click, and actually, if I click and drag, oops, hold on, go back. I should have clicked and dragged to begin with. So let's just recenter that there. Close enough, probably. All right, and it's going to hit R again. Now click and drag. Or I can just click on that little button there. All right, and I'm just going to move this out a little bit farther here, if it will let me. I really am not a big fan of the scale tools in ZBrush, to be perfectly honest. All right, watch me try this one more time, and we'll get it right this time, I swear. All right, R. There we go. Click and drag. There we go. This is exactly what I wanted it to do. And holding down Shift while I do this so that it goes out horizontally perfectly. Now, having done that, the whole point of this is so that I can turn back on the visibility of this, and just by clicking in the little red circle here on the end point of my rotation, drag this up. Now, this is meant to approximate the location of where the eyelids would normally sit. Now, just looking at this, if I look at this from the top, that is going straight up, but I may not be getting a perfect rotation. It's not too bad, but it's not perfect either, and that's okay, because the eyelids themselves I've probably sculpted them slightly differently here than what they were at when they were down more closed. All right, so not a big deal. I just need to go into my draw mode again, and I'm going to go in and grab my move tool now. So the move tool, I probably don't need it to necessarily be so big, but we're going to kind of grab and move things. This is like using the lattice deformer in a way, just sort of moving a lot of these up at the same time, right? Now I don't need it to be necessarily that big there, so just move that there like that, and some of these may also need to come down a little bit, especially over here. I don't want them to seem like they're moving horizontally at all. It just needs to be a vertical change. Okay. Now, if we see that there is any eyelash that needs to be moved on its own, there is a way we can do that, even though this piece of geometry is kind of acting like it's just one solid piece. What I can do, if I really need to, is to come in here and go to Polygroups and turn on Auto Groups. Now, just to show you what this means, if I turn on my polyframe, draw polyframe first, this is all being treated as a single polygroup at the moment. But if I turn on Auto Groups, it will take each individual piece that is not connected together and assign it its own polygroup. Now, the purpose of doing that is I can actually mask my selection by polygroups. If I go to my Move tool and come to the Brush section and come on down to where it says Auto Masking, the first option there is Mask by Polygroups. And if I turn this all the way up to 100, now when I grab one of these polygroups, it's only going to move that one piece, right? It's not moving anything else. And depending on the size of my selection here, I might be able to move that whole piece of eyelash just up a little bit, right? So for instance, like this one here, just might have to be moved up a little bit. There's a few draw errors that occur when you do this. And I might move a couple of these down a bit, just so that they don't seem to be hanging out so high. Now I can turn off polygroups if I want, because that might be part of where the draw error is coming from. But this is one way to get in there and make individual changes if you want to. So just a couple more of these here could probably be modified. A little hard to get in there and figure out which one you're touching sometimes, so there we go. And for now, we'll probably call this good enough, although I probably would go in and make a few more adjustments just to be happy with it. Now, let's go ahead and see what we get when we do this. So I can go in now and find my subtools again. I have the eyelashes enabled here. And with that selected, I'm going to go to export. So I'm going to call this one eyelashes upper left, and we're going to call this up, right? And now that way I know that this is the blend shape for the up value. So let me pop back into Maya here real quick, and then we can take a look at how this setup is going to work for us.